What's a subtle sign someone has been through some stuff? The maturity with which they handle unexpected events, especially at a young age. Strange mix of pride and sadness when I watched the kid who was interviewed following a shooting outside a baseball game say that she already knows what it is like to be shot at, so she knew how to react. Not trusting people. You could be friends for years and think you're close, but in fact, you don't have the slightest idea what's going on in their lives. They could be staying up all night, being depressed, and tomorrow morning say hello with a smile on their faces. They simply don't trust people anymore no matter what they don't do. I have a friend that's like this. The only thing I know about his situation is that he has shitty parents. That's all I know. I wish he could open up to me more. What are homies for? They have good advice for people who've just experienced trauma, or for how to handle oddly specific and fucked up situations. Super independent because they learn not to rely on anybody. Having to parent themselves when young or raise their siblings, might not have children but is really good with them. They have already gone through that chapter, which takes their own parenting opportunities away. When nothing shocks them. I had a near-death experience, and it put in perspective what actually mattered to me in my life, and what didn't. I used to be easily embarrassed by a lot of things and worry about what people thought about me. But embarrassment means that someone has seen or heard something about you that you didn't want them to, and that will spread into people's opinion in the future. Thing is, if you're dead, you don't have a future. So at that moment I thought to myself how stupid I was to care about those things. I wished I had spent that time and energy on the people I love or the things I wanted to do instead. After that experience, though I have a future now, I find it pretty hard to be embarrassed by most things. And if I do feel it, no way in hell would I let it stop me from doing what I need to for the people I love or myself. Ironically, after gaining that mentality, people started asking me how I could be so confident sometimes. But it's not that I'm confident. I just have things more important to me than being worried about embarrassment. Preparation. Most people who've dealt with horrendous situations now prepare for the proverbial worst. I do this. I anticipate and plan for the worst. It can be as simple as bringing extra snacks on road trips or saving money in case I have an "oh shit" moment and I need to run. I don't know what I'd be running from, but I am ready. Never asking for anything, even the bare minimum. Apologizing for things that aren't their fault even in the slightest. Never talking about their issues seriously. Probably joking about it, or even staying away from the topic completely. Flinching at small things. When I was younger, I went shopping with my cousins. My uncle told us we could get whatever we want, so my cousins excitedly went around the store looking at whatever items there were. I literally didn't know what to do, and only got one inexpensive thing after my uncle had to constantly reassure me that it's okay if I pick out a few things I like. The reason being, any time my parents spend money on me, whether it be for necessities, school, extracurriculars, whatever, they would throw it back in my face later on and make me feel guilty for asking for things having money spent on me. So I eventually just stopped asking for things. 2 days ago, my dad asked me why I never ask for anything or want to buy anything ever, and I didn't even bother explaining because I didn't feel like being gaslit into believing that the things I experienced as a kid never actually happened. It sucks, but it's whatever. Not wanting to bring up anything from their past. And just smiling when asked? Honestly, empathy and understanding. Many have heightened senses of empathy naturally, but oftentimes the people who really care for others shows me that they themselves have really needed it at some point. Disproportionate reactions. Their reactions to most things are normal, or even low-key, but occasionally they have a huge response to something minor. Key sign of trauma. This right here. And the one is often because of the other. We're so used to any reaction resulting in more pain that we push it down and bottle it up, so our reaction to things is minimal. Then finally that one thing happens that's an inch too far and you physically can't push it down anymore, and all that stifled emotion comes out at once over something trivial. When you see someone deal with something extremely emotionally damaging or physically painful and they act like they don't even notice it, like nothing's changed. When you see that, you know they've seen the worst and nothing is gonna get to them. My buddy came back from deployment this way. Zero emotion left after. Wife left with his kids and he just acted like he never had them in his life at all. His mom died maybe a year later, and he didn't even respond to it. Just kept his routine of drinking until he fell asleep. If they pay super close attention to the expressions of people around them and are always on the lookout for someone getting angry or upset, that's a surefire sign that they were abused at some point, because it's a defense mechanism that they learn to try and head off upcoming blow-ups. Extremely true. Also, if they do make a simple mistake, you can see them dying inside with panic and asking for forgiveness. Always helps to tell that person, it's okay, and help them resolve the issues so they don't fully shut down. Reacting to things inappropriately, either in scale or in nature. They'll overreact or underreact, or they'll do things like laugh, unironically, at awful things. One example is a friend laughing and saying, "It isn't a proper Thanksgiving dinner unless someone pulls a knife." His drunken dad held a knife against his neck while angrily admonishing him about something. Humans are good rationalizers. If we're frequently exposed to awful things, they become normal. Difficulty putting themselves first. Thinking you are telling a fun childhood or military or whatever anecdote story and looking up to realize from your friends' faces and shocked silence that it is indeed not a fun story and it's actually pretty FD. I'm a paramedic. People always ask, "What's the worst thing you've seen?" I used to just tell some slightly gross story to appease them. Now I tell the stories that give me the nightmares. It shuts them up and I get some free therapy. Win-win. Don't like being touched. Apologizing often, for things not their fault. Absolutely. I came here to say this. It's a defense mechanism. Saying you're sorry equals mama not beating you. It bleeds into adulthood and becomes your go-to reaction to avoid pain. People who are very, very closed off. I've always known that I'm a really private person, but I've recently made the connection about why I'm closed off to such a degree. When you've been through some shit in your life, sometimes the idea of anyone knowing any intimate detail about you can be taxing and even scary. My dog is a total sweetheart until I try to bake bread. As soon as I bring out my rolling pin, he freaks out. I don't want to know what happened, but it makes me sad. Empathy. Most people can't imagine themselves in your shoes until they are there. If they are particularly understanding, it's because they have been through the shit themselves and give people understanding because of it. Sometimes, even when they want to, they can't cry. Being able to put themselves in other people's shoes even in the worst situation, plus always feeling guilty about something. They seem to wait for bad things to happen and can't imagine a good or normal outcome. I call this the ghost walk, where someone will casually walk on the front of their feet to suppress the noise from their footsteps. I notice this from abused children, teens typically. Some people should just not have children, so sad. Children, who grow up in dysfunctional homes where there's a lot of fighting and arguing, when they're adults, tend to hate confrontation. They lack self-esteem and much more easily believe people who gaslight them. They don't easily stand up for themselves. When they don't ask for favors or help. Ever. Lack of trust. No trust falls, no matter the person. They don't like it when people get them something, or they don't like being the center of attention. Their heart may be racing, but their face stays calm. When they're not disappointed when something bad happens, they accept it and keep moving. They hate threats. Laughing at something bad, inconvenient happening to them. Half the replies are just how I behave normally. Should I be worried? A lot of this stuff doesn't necessarily mean anything bad, but a lot of it can certainly be indicators, especially if you see multiple cues or can start tying them to specific stimulus where the reactions to stimulus are very different from the norm. Their reaction to unexpected stress. If, for instance, you startle someone and their reaction is atypical, defensive or offensive stance, dropping to the ground, or otherwise very pronounced, followed by anger, that's a sign they have spent a lot of time in life-threatening situations. Also, if everyone around is panicking, but they are very calm and collected, that is an indication of living in a state of extreme prolonged stress. Yes, they don't go into survival mode, they live in survival mode. They check for the exits and sit with back against the wall. They are mostly silent, lost in their own world, and have difficulty maintaining relations and conversations. When someone just apologizes for doing something as simple as dropping an item, they are very good at placating drunk or otherwise irrational people. Kindness. The more sensitive, more generous, more of a let-go person, more of an, I don't want to own anything, I want to give things away. Those people just lost interest enough that they are not even mad, they want everyone to win. I was never in the military, but I have multiple friends and family who served and were in combat. They don't complain about anything normal people do. Raining out and they have no umbrella? Smile on their face. Snowing? Same smile. Traffic? Same smile. Constantly having a reason explanation ready for anything even though nobody asked. Or over-explaining yourself without prompt. Or asking permissions for really small things you wouldn't think about. Or over-apologizing over small mistakes. Being called an old soul when I was a kid, teen, early adult years. Fuck, I still hear it at 26, though I believe it's in part due to me still looking young. Didn't realize until a few years ago that I'm not an old soul. I just had to grow up way too young. I definitely don't take it as the compliment I used to. What's a subtle sign someone has been through some shit? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.